and welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about the Arduino board. So this is the Arduino. Arduino is an open source electronics platform based on easy to use hardware and software. It's intended for anyone making interactive projects. So what does open source mean? Open source means that the designs of the Arduino are made public. So anyone can follow the design and make a copy of it. Theoretically, you can get any kind of Arduino out there, but to make life easier for you and me, I suggest you get Arduino Uno. As you can see right here, it has the word Uno on it. So see right here, it says UNO. That means Arduino Uno. I suggest you to get an Arduino Uno because I'm going to use the Arduino Uno for the entire tutorial series. And this is the most standard form also. So just to make sure that we're on the same page. Okay. So right here, we're going to talk about the components on the Arduino board. First of all, you have this. This is the USB port. This USB port is used for powering your Arduino Uno, uploading your sketches to Arduino, and communicating with your Arduino. So what you do is that you connect one end of the USB cable, which looks like this. So you have this head look like here. What you do is connect this end to it. And then you connect the other end of the USB cable, which looks like this, to your computer. Okay. Alright, let's unplug this to talk about another one. So right next to this USB port, you have this. This is the power connector. This is pretty self-explanatory. This is how you power your Arduino when it's not plugged into a USB port for power. So when you bought your Arduino Uno, they must have come with the power to connect to this power connector. Okay, next look at the pins right here. So you have pins all over right here. These pins are called the digital pins. They are numbered from below here 0 all the way up to 13, making it 14 pins in total. Each of these pins have a little hole. So these you see right here, let me get closer. These are actually holes that you can stick your resistors, wires, or LED lights to it. These pins are connected to the main chip right here, and the main chip is called the ATmega microcontroller. The ATmega microcontroller is the heart of your Arduino. So now let's take a closer look at the digital pins, and you might see that there are squiggly lines beside some of the pins numbered. The squiggly lines are on pins number 3, 5, 6, 9, 10, and 11. These pins can be used with modulation, meaning that they can read voltages between 0 volt and 5 volts. Later on, we'll see that the highest voltage you can get from Arduino is 5 volts, and the lowest you can get is 0 volt. Volt is just a unit to describe how strong the voltage is, spelled as V-O-L-T. In the next tutorial, we'll be learning about the basics of electricities. You'll learn about voltages, currents, and resistance. But for now, all you have to know is that with the pins that have squiggly lines, you can read voltages between 0 volt and 5 volts. And for the ones that don't have squiggly lines, you can read voltages between, either 0 volt or 5 volts. It is like an on or off switch. Either it's a 0 or it's a 5. Now let's take a look at the pins numbered 0 and 1 over here. The reason I want to talk about these is because it has the letter TX and RX right beside it. TX right here means transmit and RX means receive. These pins are used when you want your Arduino board to communicate, let's say, with another Arduino board. Here I say communicate because when you're communicating with someone, you are transmitting and receiving information. The Arduino board does the same thing too. So one is the receive pin and the other one is the transmit pin. Okay. You can also find the words TX and RX at the top right here. So you see that here it has TX and RX. These are LED lights, and these LEDs blink when data is being received and transmitted. This is a great tool for troubleshooting. So if you know that there are data transferring back and forth, your computer and Arduino, these lights will turn on. If they are not blinking very fast though, then that means that might be some problems with your connection right here or somewhere else. So it's a great tool for troubleshooting. Okay, let's look at the other one on the lower left corner right here. Okay, right here you can see A0, A1, A2, A3, A4, and all the way to A5. These pins give you an access to the analog to digital converter. It is also connected to the chip, but this gives you an access from the analog to digital converter. If you have no idea what is the difference between analog and digital, please follow this link over here to my other tutorial about analog and digital. The truth is, you don't need to be an expert in analog and digital to understand this. The easiest way to see this is that nature is mostly analog, while your electronic devices or a computer are digital. Things like sound and waves are continuous, while in the digital world, everything is in steps. Again, if you're unfamiliar with analog and digital, click on this link to see my tutorial on analog and digital. Oh, one more thing before we continue. These analog pins right here can also be used as digital pins. Okay. Next, we look at the ground. So ground is notified as G and D on this board. So right here you can see 1, 2, G and D, and right here you can see another G and D. So 2 on the left, 1 on the right. The G and D, what the G and D pins do is that it gives you access to the lowest voltage on the board. This is probably the most commonly used pins along with a 5 voltage pin. You would always need to use these 2 pins to make a circuit. You'll understand once you get into later chapters when we're actually building circuits. So like I said before, this is the 5 voltage pin right here. So you see 5 over here and another one. Okay, let's see. Alright, so 5 voltage pin right here. This is the highest voltage on the Arduino board. You will always need to use this pin and the ground pin for every circuit you build. Alright, we're almost finished. 2 more to go. The next one is the power LED, which is down here below. You see that there's the word on here. Here, okay, on. Just to make sure you see clearly. Okay, this is the power LED. This is actually quite self-explanatory. What this does is that it shows you there is power in the board. So if this light is not on, you know that either you forgot to plug in the power or there's a connection problem in the power line. The last one is the reset button, and it's this button right here, so you can click on it. So you can click on this. What the reset button does is to tell Arduino to start from the beginning of the code. What are codes? I'm going to explain that in later tutorials. Well, certainly this is not the end of the story of this board. I mean, there are still lots of components on this board that I didn't really talk about. But these are the basic components that you need to know, and I want to save the others for later. I think it's more reasonable to introduce the other advanced features when we need to use them. For now, these are the basic components you need to know. So hopefully you have filled out the worksheet by now. My worksheet, if you don't know, there's a worksheet on my website and you can download it to work on it. So hopefully you have it filled out the worksheet by now. If there are parts that you still don't understand or didn't catch, go back to that part and listen to it again. If you're a beginner in electronics, this might take some time to adjust to. Well, when I first learned Arduino, it took me a really long time to begin. But once it starts clicking in your head, it's like a domino effect. Everything will start clicking. But if you still can't find the answers to your worksheet, I've also included the solution below the worksheet file, and it's available for download on the website. Till then, see you in the next tutorial.